Good day folks, Sean here from Air Photography. So the GoPro Hero 11 Black has been out for about 11 days now, and I've had a good amount of time to use it and test it out. So in this video I'm going to give you my thoughts on it after using it for the last 30 days. Now this is not going to be an overly technical review. There are already a ton of videos about what's new and the features. This is going to be more of a user experience review. I also want to mention that this is going to be from the perspective of an average Joe and how I use my GoPros. I don't do extreme sports, I don't jump off cliffs, skydive, anything like that. I basically use my GoPros for family vacations, travel and adventure, hiking, camping, fishing. I mount them on my drones, my RC cars, and I use them a lot for my YouTube channel capturing B-roll. And what I'm going to do is really focus on what I find really appealing about the GoPro Hero 11 Black. There's a lot of new features with it, but for some people it's not really justifiable to upgrade and spend the money. So we'll touch base a little bit on that as well. It seems with technology, and it's not just GoPros, it's smartphones, drones, a lot of tech like that. Innovation and new features that they can pack into these cameras have kind of slowed down, so it doesn't always make sense to upgrade every generation. If you're coming from something like the Hero 5, 6, or 7 Black, definitely you're going to get a lot of improvements because you get every other year's improvements as well. If you bought the Hero 10 Black last year, perhaps the 11 is something you may want to hold off purchasing. Of course, that is going to be different for everybody because there might be a new feature that you really like with the Hero 11 Black that is going to make it very appealing. Now to start off, probably one of my favorite features of the Hero 11 Black is the new 8x7 format. And what I really like about it is it gives you a lot more flexibility when it comes to cropping your videos. Normally, if you film in a traditional 16:9, the software within the camera is already doing the crop for you. But filming in that 8x7, that allows you to go in and crop it yourself later. If things aren't framed perfectly, you can adjust it when you're editing. And for somebody like me who posts to a lot of social media, within my YouTube channel I post to shorts, I post on TikTok, I have almost 1 million followers on TikTok, so I do a lot of filming in a portrait aspect. Normally if you're filming specifically for something like TikTok or YouTube Shorts, you have to mount your GoPro vertically. And the problem with that, even though it does work well, you're committed to that aspect. So if you then want to get some traditional 16:9 footage, that means you have to do the shoot twice. Of course, you could always go in and crop it yourself, film in a traditional landscape 16:9, and then crop it to a 9:16, but then you're losing valuable resolution and field of view. Whereas at 8x7, you can go in and crop it as a 16:9, but then for a different format, you can also go in and crop it by a 9:16. So in that aspect, it does save a lot of time, and it's very flexible when it comes to editing. On top of that, if you're a person who likes to mount your GoPro on top of something like an FPV drone, again, it's going to give you a lot of flexibility. First of all, your angling of the GoPro doesn't have to be exact. You don't have to worry about getting too much ground or too much sky because you can adjust the crop afterwards while you're editing. On top of that, if you're going to be running it through something like GoPro Real Steady, it just gives the software quite a bit more data to work with. And in some scenarios, it won't have to crop in quite as much to keep things stable. So for me, that new 8x7 is probably my favorite feature of the Hero 11 Black. Now, another thing I do like that they did this year is that they did not change the form factor. Of course, when you buy a new camera and you're spending money, it's always nice to have something shiny and new, looks different, a redesign. But on the other hand, when it comes to repurchasing accessories, keeping the same form factor is definitely beneficial. Things like the media mod, housing and cases, gear that you've purchased for some of the past generations, something like the Hero 9 or 10, if you're upgrading, you don't have to purchase again. So that can save quite a bit of money, and it doesn't make it quite as painful to upgrade. Now another nice new feature that they included this year, and it's the first GoPro to have it, and that is 10-bit color. That's really going to help with banding of color, just because it can display more colors. Now that's not a huge feature for me, I do turn it on once in a while, but for some people, especially if they're using their GoPros for professional use, that is definitely important. And this year we also get some nice new digital lenses. They have the new Hyperview, which is extremely wide field of view. Basically what they're doing is taking that 8x7 aspect and just squishing it down. Now you will get a lot of distortion on the side of the videos, and in some scenarios that just doesn't work. But for the most part, depending on how you're using it, like here's an example here on a bike, you don't really notice that distortion as much. You can get a nice wide field of view and it doesn't really show the distortion. But the more interesting digital lens that they added this year is linear plus horizon lock. Now that's not something totally entirely new. We did have that in previous generations, but with it, it was linear plus horizon leveling. Basically, it would keep your horizon level until you got to about 45 degrees. But now with the Hero 11 Black, it will lock your horizon for a full 360 degrees. Now, it will be cropped in quite a bit, but in some scenarios, it's just nice that you can do that without having to use the max lens mod. Of course, the max lens mod, you can do that and it will give you a wider field of view. But if you don't own one, or you don't want to purchase one, or perhaps you don't have it with you, you're still able to lock your horizon when needed. Now, it's not something I use a lot because I do like a little bit of movement in my footage, but definitely a nice new feature. Of course, stabilization on the Hero 11 Black is phenomenal, but stabilization on the Hero 10 Black was great as well. I don't know if I've noticed any difference in stabilization between like something like the Hero 10 Black and Hero 11 Black, but what is new this year with stabilization is they have that new auto boost. And that's actually a really nice feature because normally when you're using boost, it has to crop in quite a bit to keep things stable. But if you're filming in situations where you are going to have a lot of movement that it needs to stabilize, the whole clip may not need that much stabilization. So what it does in that case, it will crop in only when it needs it. So that allows you to maintain the maximum field of view and still have nice stable footage. It will kind of switch back and forth as it needs it. This year we also got the new easy mode, and I think that's a great idea for beginners. If you're new to these types of cameras, it can be a little bit overwhelming, going through all the settings and menus trying to figure out what is what. So that easy mode does make it quite a bit easier for somebody to get up and filming really quickly. Of course, if you're a pro user, it's not something you're going to want to use as it will be very limiting, but a great feature for a person who's getting their very first GoPro. We have 3 new night time-lapse modes this year, and they're actually quite interesting, but I'm not going to dive in too deep in this video. I have a video coming up going more into detail on them coming up soon. Now, of course, nothing in life is perfect, no tech is perfect, but I don't really have a lot of negative to say about the Hero 11 Black. The only thing I would say that I'm not too happy with is that there's a forced firmware update. We seen this last year with the Hero 10 Black as well. For me, I think tech should just work right out of the box. I get that sometimes firmware is not ready, but in those situations, I think companies should hold off releasing tech until the firmware is 100% ready to go. But as for stability of the camera, I've actually been pretty pleased. I did have some problems with my Hero 10 Black. Sometimes it wouldn't record when it say it's recording, or it would freeze up and you don't know it's frozen. And that was a real pain because I lost a ton of work doing that, a lot of time. And I found myself near the end just not using my Hero 10 Black as much because I found it a little bit unreliable. But I've been using the Hero 11 Black now again for 30 days and I've done a ton of filming with it and some extended filming as well. Sometimes when I'm recording stick cam footage or B-roll footage, the camera's rolling for over an hour and I have not had a single problem with it. All the footage is there. I haven't had any freezing. Everything has just been working the way it should. So if that is a problem that you've been having with past generations, or maybe you're holding off because you're worried about whether it's going to have some of the same problems, from my experience, I haven't seen that yet. So I think it's a pretty safe bet that they did get some of those bugs worked out. Well, folks, that's basically it. That's been my user experience with the Hero 11 Black over the last 30 days. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you enjoyed it and found it had value, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. It's always greatly appreciated. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. And we'll see you in the next one.